Bonjour! Welcome to another episode of Cuisine de Michel. I am Michelle. So today I'm going to be trying a recipe from a site that I don't think I've ever tried anything from before. This is bakefromscratch.com. I couldn't resist when I saw this recipe. It's for a French pastry, but a version that I've never seen before, which is black cocoa Kouign-Amann. So to start this recipe, we're going to be using the stand mixer. And I've got the ingredients ready to go. I've got 381 grams of bread flour. That would be 3 cups. So I'm going to add that in. Next, we're going to be putting in 3 tablespoons, which is 36 grams of granulated sugar. And you will notice probably, if you're watching very closely, this needs to be the dough hook. You're going to be using the dough hook attachment. I had the wrong one there to start with. So make sure you have the dough hook in place. Next, we're going to be putting in 2.5 tablespoons, which is 12.5 grams of black cocoa powder. And the original recipe does not have this, but I'm going to be adding it in because normally when you use black cocoa powder, you need to cut it a little bit because it is rather strong. You cut it with natural or regular cocoa powder. So I'm going to put in, I think, 1.5 teaspoons or so to match out with that a little bit. And then we will have 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, and 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. And then we will be adding, the last thing is 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cold water. It can just be what comes out of your tap, I would guess. We are now going to mix this at a low speed just to get the dough together and moistened. We'll let that go for about 2 minutes. Once you've got that together and mixed like that, you're going to want to increase the speed. I just stopped the mixer so I could tell you that you want to increase your mixer speed to medium-high, and you're going to beat it until you have a smooth and elastic dough, which should be about 8 to 10 minutes. Once you have finished that process, you're going to want to cover that with plastic wrap and let it rise at room temperature for 1 hour. Okay, so now we have let this go. It's actually gone for a little over an hour, and we are going to, it says punch this down. So I've already floured my fingers a little bit so that I could punch it down. I don't want to really necessarily put my knuckles into it. I don't know that punching it down is going to accomplish a lot here, because then we're just going to be taking it out of here. And it doesn't even say to flour the surface, but I'm pretty sure we should, so that we don't have it stuck to the thing. So I put a little bit of flour down here, and we are to roll this out into a 10-inch rectangle. So we'll see how this goes. Well, it certainly got stuck to my fingers despite my efforts. All right, so I definitely recommend that you flour the surface, unlike what it says in the recipe. And I went ahead and kind of put some flour over the dough so that I would be able to roll it easier. Yeah, that's working out a lot better. It was very, very sticky before this. All right, so I've gotten this pretty close to a 10-inch square. It's not perfect, so I got it, a little bit close. It's maybe a little bit longer than it is wide, but it's, probably not important that it's exactly perfect. Anyway, we are now going to wrap it up. I'm just going to reuse that plastic wrap I had over the top of the other one, and I'll add a little bit to it. We're going to wrap it up in plastic wrap and put it into the freezer for 30 minutes. All right, so I've still got the dough in the refrigerator at this time, but we also want to have this butter block ready. So what we have to do, I don't know how visible it'll be on camera, but on the opposite side of this parchment paper, I've drawn a square rather, that is 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And we're going to take this butter. This is 340 grams of butter. So it's just a little over 3 sticks of butter. And we are to take this and shape it so that it can fit into this block here, this square. This should be an interesting thing to try to do. So once I get this shaped, then we are to put that into the refrigerator for 15 minutes. Okay, so I have taken the dough out of the freezer, and I've also taken my butter block out of the fridge. I'm going to unwrap that, and it says to place it in there in the center of my dough. Okay. Get that out of the way. I'll try to put it more towards the middle. I think it shrunk up a little bit here. It was 10 inches before, and it doesn't seem to be quite that big anymore. So we're supposed to enclose this with the dough. So I'm gonna have to stretch out my dough just a little bit here to make that happen. All right, so I'm gonna get this, try to cover it inside of here like this somehow. Not exactly world's easiest project here, but we're gonna get this. All right, the dough is fairly easy to work with though, thank goodness. So once we've got that enclosed, I'm gonna go ahead, it does say lightly floured. I think it'll be all right to be lightly floured. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over. And then we are going to be rolling this, and we are to try to roll this into a 10 by 24 rectangle. It is pretty stiff. Okay, so now that I've gotten it rolled out like this, we're going to take these ends and try to fold it up like letter style. Okay, it is sticking just a bit. You need a little help there. But that's okay, because the main idea is you're trying to work all that butter into the dough. So what we're going to do is fold this up in thirds. So like a letter of sorts. Try to do that like that. Yep, there we are. And then after we do that, we get to repeat the process. And we're going to do this repetition one more time to roll it out like this, and then fold it up like a book. And again, so you're basically doing this part 2 times. All right, so I have repeated this process twice now, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it back up like a book after having rolled it out. And then we're going to be wrapping that up in plastic wrap and taking it to the refrigerator for 45 minutes. All right, so this has been chilling actually longer than 45 minutes. I think maybe like an hour and a half, but that's okay because I'm pretty sure that just the resting time can be, a little bit longer. It's not a big deal if you do go past the 45 minutes. We're going to find out, of course. Anyway, after you get it out of the fridge, you're going to coat the surface. You have a work surface here. You want to put 1/2 cup of sugar right here. And then I went ahead and turned it. It didn't say to do this, but just so that it doesn't stick because the flour isn't really on there anymore, I went ahead and turned it to coat in that sugar. And we're going to go ahead and roll this out back into that 24 by 10 inch rectangle that we had before. Meanwhile, kind of working in that sugar as we go. All right, once you have your 24 by 10 rectangle again, you're going to get another half cup of sugar. Spread it all over the inside like this. So yeah, in case you haven't guessed, this is definitely not elf food, haha. Once you have that all spread, then just like we were doing before, we're going to be folding this like a book into thirds. And we're going to be rolling it out into another 24 by 10 rectangle. All right, so I have gotten that rolled out. Once again, it's a lot more difficult now. It wants to kind of separate because of the sugar and stuff, but we have to repeat this process one more time with one more half cup of sugar. So again, you just coat it, and then we're going to fold it up and do the book thing, and then roll it back out. All right, so I will tell you it's a bit of work to get this rolled out, but I need to make a correction. It's going to be 24 by 8 for this one, because they tell us after this to cut this into 4-inch squares. And in case you didn't know your math, 10 does not divide evenly with 4. So we want 4-inch squares. We want to end up with 12 of those. So we're going to measure across here at our 8 inches. And I'm going to make a cut down the dough right there in the center. And yes, the layers aren't going to necessarily be exact, but you will have layers. So don't worry if your dough is looking layered like this. That is what we want. We want those flaky layers that are going to develop. Once you get that, you're going to want to go ahead and heat your oven to 365 degrees Fahrenheit. While you've got your oven heating, you're going to want to generously butter a 12-cup muffin or cupcake pan, whichever one you want to call it. And on each one of these squares, it says we want to fold these in towards the center. So it looks like that. And it says to press firmly once you do that. So I'm going to kind of make it look like this sort of shape. And then you're going to transfer each one of those into the muffin tin. So it's going to look kind of like that when you get it. And I reread the recipe a little bit, and it did say that, yes, you can cut it into the tin, but then you're supposed to throw away the scraps. I'm like, who throws away those kind of scraps of dough? This was a lot of work. I'm not throwing anything away. That's a no on my account. The other thing you're going to want to do is when you heat your oven, you want to put a pan underneath. It says to catch the butter drippings, because it sounds like these will possibly run over a little bit. They are very buttery, of course. And once you get these all put into the pan, it says to cover it with plastic wrap. I really don't think that's going to be necessary. We're just going to leave them at room temperature until the oven has heated. That should be approximately 20 minutes. And then you will want to bake them for 30. Okay, so they have just finished baking. I actually went a couple extra minutes because of my oven being a little bit goofy. I want to show you what these look like coming out. Oh là là. Regarde-moi ça. Ah. Wow. And yes, some of the butter did drip over. So it's a very good thing that I had the drip thing in there. And it says we are to remove these immediately from the pan, and we're going to put them on a wire rack over here. I don't care if it gets onto the counter. That's not going to be a big deal. And then we are going to let them cool for 20 minutes before trying final plating. Okay, so here we are at final plating, and I removed a couple of them, partly because this is kind of heavy. These are very dense. Also because a couple of them didn't turn quite as pretty as I would have liked them to. You see that these do have a little bit of difference in the forms, but they have that nice layering that we can see in there, and they've gotten nice and hard here. I did have to go extra time with my oven. Your oven may not require that. But anyway, I want to give these a try because they smell really, really good. Mm-hmm. Mm. I don't know if you can hear, it's a little bit crunchy on the outside because of the sugar, but it's really good. This is buttery and actually a little bit light inside. I mean, it's not super light, but maybe you can see a little bit of the texture now that I have taken a little bite out of it. It's not overly chocolatey, though. I mean, there's a little hint of chocolate to it, but not as much as I expected it to be. It's still really, really good. I will say these are better than the last time I tried to make Kouign-Amann. It was about a year ago, and I still have that in my blog as a post that I haven't finished yet. It's a draft. And those were good, but they weren't quite as nice as these. So this is definitely a better recipe than the last one I tried. I would make these again. They're a lot of work, but it's one of those things that it's a special treat to have every once in a while. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you do decide to give this a try, let me know. Or if you've ever had Kouign-Amann, if you've been to France, particularly the Brittany region, Bretagne, to let me know if you've tried these before when you've been over there. Of course, probably not this version. I don't think I ever saw a chocolate version. Maybe there were, and I just ignored them. But anyway, please be sure to give a like and a share, a subscribe, or a super like, or a become a member. And definitely, I love having your comments. So leave me a comment again, like I said, and we will see you next time. Au revoir. Just a little side note, I think this is the dirtiest I have ever gotten any rolling pin in my life.